Good morning, everyone. Happy Taco Tuesday again. We're happy to be back. We have lots to talk about today as lots happened this weekend. The theme today is going to be stats, but first, I'm pretty sure Ella has some big news from some of the things that have happened this week. So, Ella, why don't you take it away?
Okay, so firstly, something I would hope most people have heard of. Haley Wickenheiser was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame last night. Ooh. Very exciting. She's only the 7th woman of over 280 players to be inducted, which is kind of shocking. So she's definitely up there with some big names. She retired in 2017 as the all-time leading scorer for Canada with 168 goals and 211 assists in 276 games over her 23-year career. So very impressive. She has 4 Olympic gold medals and 7 world championship titles, and she actually started playing on the national team at age 15, which is very early. And she was the first player outside of a goalie to play full-time professional men's hockey. And right now, I think something else that's really important to talk about is that she's the assistant director of player development for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which is a huge role to have as a woman in the NHL. And to make her even cooler, she also played softball in the Summer Olympics, which I didn't know until I did some research on her, which is kind of cool. Yeah.
Amazing.
And then, let's see, what else do we have? Also on Saturday, there's Laurel. The San Antonio Spurs head coach Greg Popovich, he was ejected during the third quarter. And his top assistant coach is Becky Hammon, who's the first female full-time assistant coach in the NBA. And so after he ejected, everyone just kind of assumed that she would take the role as head coach, right? Since she's the top assistant coach. But no, the other assistant coach, Tim Duncan, actually became the head coach. And then I have this audio from Popovich's interview post-game, so let's take a listen. Well, I don't think it worked, but he said, someone asked him, the question was, did you take into consideration that she would have been making history, becoming the first female to coach an NBA team, even if it was only for a quarter? And he said, I'm not here to make history. I don't really care, basically is what he said.
I mean, I see both sides of that. That's fair. But,
if she's she's head assistant coach for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're not gonna give her that role, why
put her as head coach,
as head assistant coach?
Yeah. It's almost like he took something from her without even thinking about it, and you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to be like, oh no, I'll give her this chance to be the coach because she'll set a record. When you're coaching in a game, you're not really thinking about that probably, but at the same time, he did kind of take something from her. I feel.
I feel like it's. We don't know the backstory of everything. We don't know what was going on, and I'm sure there's more to the story than just what we heard. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I don't think it's for us to decide because we don't know a lot of things about the story and we don't know the background of it. So I think it's hard to judge. But I get his statement when he said, I'm not here to make history, because he cares about his team's success. That's number one.
Yeah, I feel like that could be taken two ways, which are very different, like the way that you said it, Elizabeth, whereas, I'm not here to make history means it doesn't matter to me. I'm here to win the game, right? Or it could be taken as I don't care if she's here to make history or not. It doesn't matter to me, right? Which is kind of sad.
It all depends on, how you interpret it.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the topic of coaching, this happened a few weeks ago, but I just thought of it now when Ella brought that up. But a few weeks ago, actually at Ryerson, Corey Chevry, who is the assistant coach on the men's hockey team, she's the only full-time assistant coach. She became the first woman to coach a men's hockey team to a regular season win in U Sports history, which is pretty
That's
cool.
That's kind of surprising.
Wow.
The head coach was serving a suspension, and she was the head coach for a game, and
That is kind of surprising because I feel like in U Sports or OUA we do see female coaches more often. Than
it's
in
just
the
in
big leagues.
in men's hockey.
Okay.
Not like first female to coach a men's hockey team to a win.
Yeah, still
not
it's
women's
kind
hockey
of still
team,
kind
but
of
still surprising
yeah.
for sure. Yeah, but it's cool that it
That is
happened like
cool.
right here.
at Ryerson.
Yeah.
That is cool. Wow.
And something else I thought was interesting was we had the game day story assignment where we had to go and do social media for a Ryerson Rams game, and all the people that were on that game where she set that record, I guess, or made history, whatever you want to call it, they had no idea that was happening. So they did the post-game interview and like asked her the questions or whatever, and then like 3 days later the article came out that
everyone's
happened,
like,
and they were like,
"What?"
damn, I could have asked her questions about that, right?
Yeah. I know, like, even the players didn't know. Like,
Yeah.
in the article, it was saying,
I wonder if she knew that she set a record. Actually,
Probably.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
no, but, like, reading the article, it said, like, one of the players didn't even know, and, like, by the time that he was, like, out and he realized she had already left, so he went and tracked her down the next day to, like, say congratulations
Wow.
and everything.
Oh, that's nice.
That's nice. Yeah. I kind of wanted to comment on Haley Wickenheiser.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was great, and I watched her interview and all that stuff. And I think a very important thing to highlight is that she is now 41 years old. And when she retired, you said 2017.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, so she would have been 39, which is like a pretty significant age.
Yeah.
Like it's you're already, your body is giving out and
I'm
stuff like that.
losing it now, and I'm 19.
Yeah.
Like, I went into a hockey tournament on the weekend. I'm like, my back hurts, my legs are sore, I can't move anymore. Like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous.
And actually, that also just made me think of it. You're basically saying she's like a crazy athlete. She's very tough, and she can
Yeah.
sustain that lifestyle. Especially like, I don't know, hockey's a pretty tough sport with, you know, hitting and everything, and to be able to last that long. Like, she started at 15 and played until she was 39.
Yeah.
Right. But there was this interview that someone just found on Twitter the other day, and I thought it was so funny, so I'm just gonna play it.
It was absolutely atrocious, but you know what? The Americans had our flag on their floor in the dressing room, and now I want to know if they want us to sign it.
Oh my god, I
That's
remember
so
that.
funny.
I just love how
remember
strong
that.
her Canadian accent
I
is
remember
too.
that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I
That's
feel like she's
funny.
a really good athlete to look
I
up
love
to.
I love how she started off by saying it was atrocious.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was
That's
disgusting.
terrible.
Yeah, no, she's great.
What a queen.
When she went up to do her speech at the Hockey Hall of Fame, she also mentioned that her nieces were there and they were 5 and 6 years old, and that they could walk into a rink and the path was made easier for them. Like, that's a quote from her, because I honestly think, and she knows this, that she made it easier for girls to get involved
definitely.
with hockey and feel like they were welcomed in hockey. And she said that when she was playing, she had to run in, like cut her hair really short, like go to the bathroom, make herself look like a boy, and girls don't have to do that anymore. And I remember kind of like, well, I didn't have to do that. Like, I never had, like, when I played hockey and I was really young, I felt like I could just walk in, like, yeah, there were more guys in the rink and like everything,
Yeah.
and the dressing rooms smell like boys, but I think she was a big part of making hockey a better environment for female players. And
Oh, definitely.
I really liked that part of her speech where she said that she is glad that the path has been made a little easier now. She definitely recognized it. Like, you know, it's still kind of harder for girls to walk into a rink, but the path has been made easier. Oh, I just
Definitely.
love that.
I mean, growing up, like, in hockey, I remember Haley Wickenheiser was always the one to look up to. Like, I remember she was, like, the first female hockey player I ever knew of. Her and Becky Keller were, like, top of my list ever since I was young. So, like, to see Wickenheiser and, like, get into the Hall of Fame, it's, like, amazing for me, honestly.
And I know I said it before, I just think it's so cool that she's now she works for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I feel like,
More females need to be in
Yeah.
those roles.
but I don't know if we blow up Toronto just because we live in Toronto, but I feel like it is, I would say it's probably the biggest hockey city in Canada. Would you say? Is that a hot take? I don't know. But anyways, I feel like
think
having
it's
her
definitely,
here is
like-
a
It's
big
definitely
deal.
up there.
Yeah.
It's definitely, but I know like
I'd say-
Vancouver loves their hockey and so does Montreal.
Yeah.
So,
No,
like,
I'm not
it's-
saying
yeah.
that they don't, but I
close.
just feel like
I mean,
having her
Ottawa's
here is a
okay
big
as
deal.
well, I guess. But
I guess like everyone does, but like,
Yeah, it's just so cool seeing her go from like she's not just an athlete, she's an athlete, but she knows how to.
I actually saw
know.
like a cool stat a few weeks ago, and I didn't save it because I'm dumb, obviously. But it was like the percentage of females within each NHL organization.
Oh
And
yeah,
it was like surprisingly small amount. Like I think it was like
Yeah.
half the league or just under half the league had 1%.
I'm gonna try and find it right now.
Yeah,
but
I
keep
mean-
talking.
Yeah.
that's what we talk about, right? Like things are evolving, and before I think there wasn't even that 1%. There was nothing, and as
Yeah.
you said, people like Haley Wickenheiser.
It was like I don't know if any team went over like 10%, if that, if I'm remembering this right, but like I don't know.
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you very rarely see females. in
Yeah,
the
like
NHL.
it's almost disappointing. Like I don't know if it's that like the interest isn't there or if it's like
It-
what it is.
I mean,
but
I feel like it is disappointing, but it also makes sense just
Yeah.
because it's a male league and it's been dominated by males since the very start. And, it's like when it all started, like females weren't like allowed to even
literally.
play sports. or
Females
hockey
weren't
or
even
anything.
allowed to like leave the kitchen at that point.
Yeah, so basically.
Oh, I found it. Okay, gender diversity in hockey operations. Toronto Maple Leafs is at the top with 84% male and 16% female.
Okay, so it was over 10%.
Which still sounds a little sad, but it's
sucks,
good.
but you know what?
And then the Chicago Blackhawks have 99% male and 1% female. And then the Nashville Predators and the Washington Capitals have 100% male. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice to see that only two of, all the teams have.
But like it's still a little
More.
disappointing that there's
Yeah.
still teams that don't have any females in their operations at all, like anywhere.
But on the other hand, I feel like roles should be assigned not based on whether you're male or female. I think it should be based on
Who's best for the
who
job?
can do the job.
Yeah,
For sure.
But is
for
it
sure.
possible that like out of like everyone that's working for that team, not one female was better for the job than a male? Like not one.
Yeah.
In all those positions. Like that's kind of hard to believe. I don't know. I think they're looking at it like who's
Yeah.
who's best for the job, but I think they're a little
Yeah.
bit
There's
gender
still a bit of a
biased.
gender
Yeah.
bias, yeah, for sure.
It is interesting though looking at it. So Toronto Maple Leafs are first. The Edmonton Oilers are 5th. The Canucks are 6th. The Senators are 7th. The Calgary Flames are 8th. The Canadiens are 10th. And yeah, I think that's all the
Winnipeg?
ones that are on there. Oh, there's Winnipeg. Winnipeg's like 16. But they're all pretty high up on the list, all the Canadian teams, which is good. So I feel like definitely in Canada, I would say there's more opportunities for women as well. Just because, I don't know, I feel like we're a little...
Go
ahead of the
Pittsburgh, they have
game,
like
you know?
2%.
Yeah, God. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really
I'm
interesting.
just gonna bust in
Yeah.
and make it 3% for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
So, do we want to talk about stats?
Yes.
Okay, so we
Kennedy
put
got excited.
we put something on our story at Girls Got Game Radio, just to see what our fans. Wow. What our
Whoa.
listeners.
We have fans. That's fair. That's fair.
All right, sure.
So many
My
fans.
mom's listening somewhere out there.
Yeah, she's
Same.
a fan.
Hi, Mom.
So we got the result in, and 69% of the voters said that they like stats, and 31% said they don't. And I also found it kind of interesting that 3 of us in this room said no. 3 out of the 5 of us.
Well,
Which is
I don't
interesting.
remember what I said.
You said yeah.
Oh, well, no.
So
Wanna
4
change
of
that
us
answer?
said no.
Kind of. I have a mixed feeling about stats because
Yeah.
I don't go into detail with them. I find it hard to understand the detail
Yeah.
stats and like the very niche kind of stats. But
yeah.
I do like stats in the way that you look at them, like you look at the result, you look at points per game, assists
Yeah.
per game, stuff like that, and you just know it, and it's such an easy way. So I kind of I will never get into the niche kind of stats because
Yeah.
I'm not a stats person and I don't understand that. But I like
is fine.
stats. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I like I like stats in the way that it's so easy to just find out the result in one number, like, you know.
I
just
agree. I
anything you
totally
want.
think they like benefit the game, and a lot of stats have helped like just simplify. I know it sounds weird, but you think like stats are complicated, but I do think they've simplified like just understanding the overall like what happened in the game. Like now, a lot of people don't even have to watch games; they can just go on their phone, see the stats, and know almost everything that happened. Personally, I was one of the people that said no. I don't like stats. I'd rather watch the game, and like I don't really care about. I mean, you know, when you're watching, like, oh, that player has scored a lot of goals. They have like a high like goal percentage for that game. Like I kind of just figure it, but I never actually look at the numbers, which is weird because I know a lot of you are opposite.
I'm a big numbers person over here. I literally have a note in my phone that's like my own stats since I was like 16 years old. So like every season I make a new like section of it, but I have like all my stats from when I was playing, like goals, assists, points, penalty minutes, plus minus, like literally everything.
Would you do that like after the game? Like you would just
I still do it. I still do it. Like I've had it since my second year midget, so since I was in grade 10.
When you make it big,
grade 11.
people are going to be very appreciative of that.
Grade
They're going to be
11.
like, we have her stats. All
I'm going to be like,
information is,
these
like,
are all my stats. Everyone appreciate them. Like my points per game, like, I don't know. I just keep doing it all the time, so. That's how much of a stats person I am.
Keeping track of your own stats. I find that I'm more of a situational stat kind of person. Like I don't, like you were saying, Elizabeth, I'm not super into like the super detailed, lots of numbers, like this is how many goals they scored after giving up the first goal in the second period, like stuff like that, right? Like I don't care about that. I like more of the I feel like situational is the way to word it. Stuff like how many goals this person has scored in their 23 years of playing hockey, like stuff like that. And there was one I found when I was like looking up some stuff for today that I thought was very interesting. So the U.S. women's national team, so soccer, they've scored more goals today. This was in a tweet. So it was more goals today, which was June 11th, against Thailand than the U.S. men scored in the 2010 and 2014 World Cups. On that one day, U.S. scored 13 goals. That was the game that they won 13-0, and then they were bragging about it, and everyone was like, you shouldn't do that, right? But yes, I kind of agree with that, but that's not the point. The point is that I like those stats that kind of compare teams and definitely easier to understand. And like your reaction, Emma, was like, oh my God.
Yeah, no, stats I think are like a short way to get a big impact. Like for example, when you just said that, if you had like walked me through the game, I would have been like, oh, that's cool. Whereas like that short like little like fact was like, oh my God, it like requires such a reaction, I think sometimes, which again, I agree, that's like the benefit of stats. They're very like fast ways to just get your point across. I don't know why. I kind of wish like a lot of people are like really good with stats over all sports. I wish I could like pick one, and I'm going to try to like get better at it because I do see the value in them. I just have never, numbers have always scared me, and I've always thought of like stats as such like a big numbers thing. But like, for example, when you like said that, I'm not the one making it. I just like need to like know it, I guess. I want to like be able to be like, oh, did you know this? And did you know that? And I think it's like just a cool like little thing to like be able to like tell or like say.
Yeah, even if you're like writing an article or a piece, like if you know how to properly include a stat, just like as simple as a score, how many goals they have in their career, that's just like that enhances, I think, your writing skill and like your presentation, because as you said, that shocks people. Like that little stat, the little number can be like a whoa effect on people.
And like you were saying, knowing how to incorporate stats into like a piece of writing, I feel like those kind of situational stats are more effective than being like, this was their power play percentage. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
I think it's better for everyone to be able to understand it, and I think it says more about the actual game.
I do think those stats do come in handy too, though, like power play percentage and stuff, because like going into like a hockey game or whatever, if you're like comparing a power play percentage for both teams, or like a power play percentage from one and a penalty kill percentage from another, it kind of gives you like an insight on what the teams are able to do, especially like facing off against each other. Like if one team has a high power play percentage and the other one has a low penalty kill percentage, like chances are they're probably going to score on the power play, right?
Yeah, they definitely both have advantages.
I think they definitely like benefit. They're both beneficial, just in different ways.
I feel like it all depends on what kind of piece you're writing and what audience you're targeting.
Good point.
For sure.
Because if, like, you know, someone who's not that into like hockey and doesn't follow every stat, but occasionally wants to read like, oh, what happened in hockey this week, and when they like read about a power play percentage, they're like, I don't want to read this, I just want to know the score, I just want to know the best players, so. But on the other hand, if you are writing to people who do follow every stat every game, then they do want to
understand that. Yeah.
And like I feel like if you're just like trying to like prove how good a team is or something, and you're just like, oh, this is their power play percentage, it's like, congratulations, that tells me absolutely nothing about the team. Like they're good. They're good. They're good with a man advantage. Tell me what they're like 5-on-5. And like one thing that bothers me so much about stats is when people are like trying to brag about their team, and they say something along the lines of, oh, the Washington Capitals have made the second round of the playoffs every year and your team got kicked out in the first. It's like, congratulations. Okay. Did they win a Stanley Cup?
No.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like before that, we're talking like pre-2018.
Yeah, that's a good point. Do you guys find it difficult? Like, do you find you're kind of expected to not know stats? And then if you do know a stat, being a girl, I mean, do you think classmates, profs, whatever, people in the industry, do you think that they kind of expect you to not know stats, and then that kind of bugs you a little bit? I mean, for people that literally don't know stats, then it's fine, but...
I feel like I wouldn't necessarily say like classmates or profs, because I've always felt, for the most part, welcome here. Obviously, there have been like little incidents, but not. It's more like conversation, not too much.
I think also the program we're in.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
The people specifically in our program kind of expect us to know something about sports, and I don't think are shocked when a girl comes out and like throws out a bunch of stats. In general, I think there is a big
in general, I definitely
stats.
Feel like outside of the program, if I say something and everyone's like, "Oh, how do you know that?" It's like,
I love when it actually gets thrown in. Oh, she actually knew that. Okay, well, like, what do you mean? Actually?
What do you mean actually?
That's such a like. It's one word that makes such a big difference in sentences. Or it's like, oh my god, like if you're like, oh, she actually looked good today. It's like, what do you mean actually? Like, why couldn't she just look good today? Like,
my friend was telling me the other day, she goes to Guelph Humber for media studies, and she wants to get into sport media as well. And she was telling me that in her residence, she was watching the Penguins Leafs game, and a bunch of guys walked into the common room and started like quizzing her about the Penguins because they didn't think she was actually a fan, and she's like asking her questions like, oh, how long is Crosby out for? And she hasn't been watching sports too much because she's been busy with school.
Yeah.
So she didn't actually know. And she's like,
I know.
She's like, I feel bad because they're asking her all these questions and she feels like she's just getting put down for it. And I'm like, well, you don't necessarily have to know all that
I'm
stuff.
trying to pass class.
Yeah, literally. And she's like, I didn't want to argue because like I felt I wouldn't do anything about it because I haven't been paying attention.
Was she one girl like in a room with a bunch of like guys? How is she gonna argue? Like anyone in that situation,
no one's gonna back
like,
you.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have like backup to be like, my girl knows her stuff. Like you don't have that person there. So obviously you're gonna be like, oh well, whoops. Like
but she sent me that. I was like, that bothers me so much. I would argue. I don't even care.
I feel like you could just. She should just ignore them, I guess, like, because...
Easier said than done, but...
Yeah, but I don't know, I just feel like you can't really say much in that situation. I feel like it's better to just ignore. It depends on the person. I mean, really depends on the person. Some people find it easier to argue. So...
Honestly, I can just like shove stats down people's throats, so I don't find it too hard. But I mean, for people who aren't too familiar with that, I can see how it would be harder.
Yeah.
But
we have to quote Kennedy saying that. Sorry, it's just like I could just shove that.
I'm the type of person that's just like, shut up. This is what I know.
I think in that situation where your friend was being tested by a bunch of guys in a room, I don't think that. Of course, she doesn't have any control over that situation and she has no obligation to prove herself or anything. That's just the way that society, I guess, has kind of raised males. Yeah. Because, if a guy had been in the room watching the game, they wouldn't go up to him and question him on the stats.
Exactly. That's exactly what I told her. I'm like, if you were a guy, you would have never been asked how long Crosby's out for or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like that would never have come up in a conversation. You'd just have a regular you know, maybe a few chirps back and forth, regular conversation about sports, but you'd never be asked questions.
Exactly. And
unless they genuinely didn't know and they were like, hey, like, I don't know, how long is he out for?
Yeah. And you're put in such like a victim position when you're in that situation because there's nothing you can do. You can't be like, oh, I don't know, because
then they're
that's
like,
such
oh,
a
well,
girl
you're not
thing.
a fan.
No, that's such a girl thing, and they're just gonna put you down even more for it. So I feel like if you're listening and you're a girl in that situation, you can stand up for yourself in a way that guys won't be like, oh, she's just a coward, she's just a bitch, right? Because they're gonna use those stereotypes against you. And maybe other girls would come up to you, and start quizzing you. You know, maybe a girl will walk into the room, see you're watching the game, and start quizzing you. Probably less likely to happen, but in those situations, it's so important to like stand up for yourself, because at that point, whether you know stats or not is irrelevant. It's the fact that they put you in such an awkward situation where all of a sudden you have to prove yourself. Yeah. That it's just so unfair. And like at that point, even if you know the stats or not, just find a way to make the situation equal. Like call them out for it. Be like, who do you think you are walking into this room and quizzing me? Like, congratulations, you know stats. Like, thank you for thinking you're above me, because you're not.
And going off that too, you use the word unfair, which I feel like is a very strong word. Do you guys feel like because we're not expected to know stats, or because you literally don't know stats, do you ever feel like you're at a disadvantage, or that you're
not really
isolated? I love how short that answer was. No.
I don't know. I feel fine. I don't feel the need to know every single stat. You choose. I feel like you can choose the perspective of how you write, of what you want to do. You know, there are people who want to do just stats. They want to be stats people. They want to, you know, and there are people who want to write. There are people who want to do camera. You know, there's so many different things. Yeah. So
you can have your own thing that you're good at.
Being in sport media, you don't have to know, like, you're not obligated to know stats. And I've never felt like that. I never felt obligated to know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Like, if I was in your friend's position and a bunch of guys came in, like, started quizzing me, in my head, I'd be thinking, okay, you guys are a bunch of jerks. But also, I'd be like, nope, I don't know anything. Like, I'm just here to enjoy the game. Like, is there anything wrong with that? I don't think it's still unfair. They shouldn't, like, it's still, I think that unfair word is still like justifies, like, or explains the situation. Sorry. But it's just depending on the person on the other side of it. If you're someone that really values stats, but for some reason I couldn't keep up with it, or like, you know, school is more important for some people. That position to be in where you have to like prove yourself, like Natasha was saying, is super unfair.
I think it's important too to just like, if you are in that position, just straight up be honest. Yeah. Like, if you don't know, just be like, look, I don't know. Sorry. Like, this is one thing I don't know.
Doesn't mean all girls don't know.
It doesn't mean we all don't know. It doesn't
know.
mean you're not a stats person. It doesn't mean you don't like sports. Like, but I feel like guys get all excited when girls try and pretend like they know sports or whatever, and then they mess up or they say something wrong, or like, even if someone likes to think that, or I don't know what I'm trying to say. If someone like thinks they know something but they're not 100% sure and they say it anyways, guys don't see that as a mistake. I feel like guys see that as, oh, she doesn't know sports. You know what I mean? Like, not all guys. I'm not trying to like just single them all out here. But like, I've been in,
like, we're not labeling all guys. We're not pulling.
Just talking about the stereotypes.
We're not pulling a Don Cherry and labeling an entire race. Yeah.
Let's not pull all that out. But you know, you don't have to know stats to be able to do all this stuff. And if you don't know and someone asks, just straight up be like, I don't know. Educate me. You don't have to
That's another good way to put it. I think you can almost, especially like you were saying in your friend's situation where the guys were pretty much clearly calling her out for not knowing it, right? You can also be like, oh, actually, like, I don't know. Like, do you? Like, straight up ask them. Like, kind of spin it back on them, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, yeah, what's wrong with me not knowing it? Do you know? Like, can you tell me?
I remember one time I had a guy ask me, this was like when I was in high school, and he's like, how many Stanley Cups have the Penguins won? I was like
the voice you put on when you.
I was like, if you're gonna ask me about stats, at least pick a hard one that I might not know, and not like how many
You're trying to
Stanley
catch me off
Cup
guard.
and like not how many Stanley Cups the team on my sweater has won. Like, come on.
That is a good point.
Ella, I think you told this story last season, but I remember you told a story and I found it hilarious. you were standing in line for something at like a Leafs game, and I don't remember the story, but I think
can
you can
retell
tell it.
it,
Yes,
yeah.
please retell it.
So I think this was it must have been the 2017 Leafs playoff run. And me and a few of my friends, again, we're like little short, like 5'3", 17-year-old girls, right? Like we don't look like we know what's going on.
I remember that story.
I love this one. We're standing in line, and these two guys come up to us, and they were doing like an interview on camera too, so it wasn't just audio where I can like mess up and like, oh, whatever, it's fine. And he was like, oh, can we like interview you? They were asking the guys behind us, can we interview you about like the quiz about like the Maple Leafs and, you know, their lines and stuff like that. The guys are like, oh yeah, sure. And then he kind of came over to like me and my friend, and he's like, do you guys want to do it too? And all the guys were like, oh yeah, sure. And then he ended up asking us questions about, like, they weren't even hard questions. It was like, who's the backup goalie? Like stuff like that. And the guy was like, oh, I actually don't know. And then I was like, well, I do. Like, gave them the answer. And then afterwards, the guys were like, oh, like that was actually really impressive. Like they kind of not like apologized, but they were trying to be like nicer to us now that they knew. And we're like,
Oh my god, I wish
No.
everyone could have just seen Ella's face.
what did I do?
It was really funny. Like, my fault.
Yeah, I don't know. It was really funny just kind of showing them up. Like they definitely were not expecting us to know what was going on, but meanwhile they were there with like less knowledge than us, and they thought they were going to know more than us. You know what I mean?
Okay, but
Like
you gotta,
they barely
you
knew
gotta
anything.
tell the next part.
What's the next part?
Where, okay, this is the
Yeah, you
part
tell
I
it.
remember because they were like, oh, wow, you actually know stats and being all nice to you. And then I think one of them asked you out, and I thought that was so funny.
And then he's like, how old are you guys? The way he worded it too was like, oh, are you 98s or something? And I'm like, I'm 2000. Like, I'm fresh in high school still. Leave me alone. But it's just annoying because like all of a sudden now that we know sports, you want to like talk to us. You know what I mean?
I
don't know.
remember a
So
few
weird.
years ago, I went to who was it? I think it was Kitchener Rangers and Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. It was right after Taylor Radish, who's my favorite player, my whole heart. He got traded to Sault Ste. Marie. So me, being the smart person that I am, wore my Erie Otters jersey to a Kitchener Rangers game, which, if anyone knows, those two teams are like very big rivals.
Yeah.
And the Erie Otters weren't actually in the building. So, as you can imagine, I got some looks, and I'm in line for like a snack or something. I don't even know. And my friend and I just hear like these guys behind us. And all we hear is one of them whisper, like, why is she here? And we're like, what? And like I turn around and they're staring at us, and we're like, what? So I kind of turned around, and he looks at me and he's like, why are you here? And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean?
You're straight up
why am
gonna
I
ask me
here?
why I'm here.
Like, he's like, you're wearing an Erie Otters jersey, and I was like, okay, like, elaborate. And he's like, well, that doesn't make sense. And I was like, well, he's on the team that's like on the ice. And this kid looked so caught off guard.
Wait, he didn't he didn't know?
He didn't even know.
Oh.
Like, I didn't even know. He was just like, I was like, well, I mean, like, Taylor
That's
Radish
tough.
plays for Sault Ste. Marie, so like that's why I'm wearing this jersey. And he's just like like he just like was silent, and then they're staring at me like the whole time I'm walking away. I'm like, what?
You're welcome.
I kind of have a similar story. It doesn't have a lot to do with stats, but it definitely has a lot to do with when guys question a girl's right or authority to be there. So I was at this fencing competition like 2 weeks ago, and
It's a recent one.
it was a recent one, yeah. I was so surprised because I'm like, it's like almost 2020. What are we doing? I was watching this match happen, and okay, if anyone can't guess this, fencing is quite. People would assume that it's a very male-dominated sport, and it definitely is, but it also isn't because there's equal women's events. But most of the refs that I find are definitely male. And when it's a female ref, people generally tend to question their authority more.
Yeah.
And that pisses me off because it's like, hello, we all took the same test. Yeah. And so there was this match happening, and the ref may have made a mistake. I don't know if it was just a judgment call or if she didn't see it. I don't know. But she made a mistake earlier in the match when someone whipped off his mask, screamed, yelled, and made this whole scene. And I would have given him a card of some sort because it was completely inappropriate behavior. And, there's a certain rule on it. I don't need to get into it. No one cares. But, and then later in the match, the other person won. It's complicated. I'm not going to get into it. But basically, a bunch of people were watching this match. It wasn't like a high stakes match or anything. It was just high intensity. And someone in front of me, it was a guy, and he was talking with other guys. And I just remember hearing him say, "This is why women shouldn't be refs." And I'm like,
what does that have to do with it?
At the end of the day, the winner got 15 points. The loser didn't. Like, come on. Like, you can't argue with that. It's not the ref's fault. Yes, some of the calls may have swung the points. I don't know. I didn't watch the whole match.
I understand all of this vocabulary.
Yes, thank you. But basically, the people were like, this is why women shouldn't be refs. This is why, and I was so caught off guard because I'm like, did anyone else just hear that? Like, how is that even appropriate? How is that still a thing today? So, like, Kennedy, when they're questioning, like, why you should even be there, it's like, where are you even getting this from?
Yeah. I doubt. Like, where else do you want me to be?
Yeah. And it's crazy that it's still happening today.
That's what I was going to say. It's interesting that it's, like you were saying, that was not even that long ago.
No, it was 2 weeks ago, and it's still happening everywhere in the sports, not even the sports industry, like just in Little Kingston. Like, it's still happening.
And like, I found it funny when I got asked why I was there, because it's like, I'm not just going to wear an Erie Otters jersey just to, like, create havoc at this rink. Yeah. Like, especially not in Kitchener, because I don't want to get beat up. Like, if I'm wearing a jersey to a game, I'm wearing it for a reason.
Yeah.
It might not always match the team or whatever, but if there's a player on the back, that player plays for one of the teams. I can guarantee you that. And, like, this guy's just questioning why I'm there, and he doesn't even know.
Without even considering that maybe he's wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And, like, he doesn't even know that, Taylor Radish was playing on the ice, and that was the jersey I was wearing. And I'm like, what?
Do you think because he didn't even know, so do you think that he called you out because you were wearing that jersey or because you were a girl or both? Because if he didn't even know that
probably
the person was on the ice, then maybe he didn't even call you out because of your jersey.
Yeah. Probably a little bit of both. Like, again, when I said that he was literally on the ice and he was playing for a different team, he looked so caught off guard. Like, it's not like he even tried to defend himself at all. He just looked like he had no idea. So, I don't know. It could have been a way to it also could have been a way to, like, target me and, see if I could have an explanation for why I was wearing this jersey, instead of whatever. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting because, like I said, obviously I'm wearing it for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think it could be like an intimidation thing. Like if it was a guy wearing that jersey, he probably wouldn't have gone up and said it. Noticed, but he just probably thought he could intimidate you or make you feel like pressured to, or like make you answer why you're not there or why you're there and like catch you off guard.
There was also a tweet I saw yesterday. It's kind of similar to what we've just been talking about, but I sent it in our group chat. But I saw this tweet and it's like, boy, I wish girls like sports. Girl, I like sports. Boy, name the blood type of every Heisman winner since 1990.
You know what's funny is
That's funny.
I retweeted one.
Funny Instagram post.
I retweeted that. It was a little slightly different. Like it was a different example, but way back in like maybe July or August, and one of my male friends screenshotted my retweet and then sent it to me and said, Ella, come on, it's like blood types. Oh, why don't you know that? Like as a joke, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, that post is so funny.
I love seeing things
so
like that. It's so funny and it's so exaggerated, but at the same time, it's also kind of true.
Yeah.
Because like you say, guys always talk about
not
how
to that extent, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's exaggerated in the point where you don't necessarily ask the blood type of a Heisman winner since a certain
Like
year.
liking
But
sports sometimes just gets summed down into stats.
Yeah,
like you
but
know
it's-
stats. It's
yeah.
like no, I genuinely have like a like for sports and an interest in sports. It doesn't mean I know.
Yeah.
Maybe
The blood
again
type
not
of
to that
it.
extent, but like know certain stats.
Yeah.
Something else that happened this week to kind of give a little side note here.
little transition.
Penny Alexiak and Bianca Andreescu were at the
BFFs.
Raptors game.
Oh, cutest thing ever.
And I'm sure you
BFFs.
all
was
saw
cute.
that. I loved
was
it.
so nice.
Yeah. I don't know. Seeing, like, I know we've talked about them on the show before.
Share drinks.
Yeah. But I think it's just so cute that, like, they're the two. I mean, one's from Mississauga and one's from the beaches, right? So they're, like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
left,
And they're both
west side
they're
and east
both
side of
our
Toronto.
age.
They're both the same
They're both
age.
19.
Penny Alexiak has 4 Olympic
Olympic
medals. Bianca
Olympic
has a
medals.
U.S. Open Championship medal along with other things.
Rogers Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
I love Bianca because she achieved so much, and she has all these titles, all of these things, you know, and she's progressing, and I'm sure she's gonna win more in years to come. But she's just this average person. She's like, you know, she went to the Eaton Center and she sees a Raptors game, and she seems just so humble. And
Yeah.
whenever she talks, she like, you know, you can see that you can relate to her. You see that she's a person, not just this big star.
I remember watching Penny in the Olympics.
Yeah.
2016. I'm like, this girl is 16 and winning an Olympic gold medal, and I'm sitting on my couch and watching it happen. I'm like, what am I doing with my life?
But I don't know. I liked seeing the two of them together.
I love how I love how they're together. They're supporting each other. They're like enjoying it. They're acknowledging that
Becoming
they're both
friends.
like in the public eye, but at the same
Yeah.
time, they're not going to let that stop them from like just chilling
Doing
and
whatever.
being friends. Yeah.
It was funny because a lot of the comments too were on, or comments on that tweet were saying like, "Oh, I hope those are non-alcoholic drinks." I'm like, do you not know that they're 19? Like, I feel
Yeah.
like they like.
Oh, maybe because in the
advertise their
States,
age all the time.
The legal drinking age is 21, so maybe some people just don't know
That's
that
true.
Canada's legal drinking age
Yeah,
is 19.
that's a good point.
I honestly think that's not the issue. I think they think it's like, oh, they're athletes.
Yeah, or
How
are they just
can
trying to
they
be like...
drink?
Oh, really? Is that a thing?
Maybe, yeah.
I didn't think
Is
of that.
that a
That's,
thing?
that's a good point. Where
Because
they're like, oh,
it's
they're
like-
athletes, they shouldn't be drinking.
Yeah.
But
But they're not competing the next day. Like, why?
Yeah.
Give them a
Yes.
break. They're just trying to have fun.
But I feel like some people look at professional athletes as these
Yeah.
perfect people who can't have fun or do anything but train all the time, every
That's
day.
a good point. I didn't even think of that.
So yeah, it's like
I find it funny how some people think that, but it's like, have you ever seen a team the night they win a championship? Do any of them?
Good point.
Do any of them remember what happened the
Good
next day?
point.
Probably not.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, every time, I feel, not every time, but I feel like often if people see a professional athlete that's relevant, like, you know, drinking or doing or clubbing or like having fun, they're like, oh, why isn't she or he in the gym? Why are they not training? Why are they doing this? Like, they should be focusing on that. It's like,
Let's not ignore the fact either that, like what, was it Emma who said that maybe don't know that the drinking age is 19
Oh,
or
yeah.
whatever?
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many different legal
Yeah,
drinking
but
ages.
let's not forget the fact that how many times has someone that's under 21 won a Stanley Cup on an American team? And still, like, I remember just last year, Robert Thomas, he was 19, and he's walking down the streets of St. Louis during the parade with a Bud Light in his hand.
But he's an athlete, so we won't charge him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's normal. Like, people.
Yeah, no, it definitely is.
They're people. They're not like these gods who just train
They're not
24/7.
perfect, right?
I think that's why I like, especially, I find Penny Alexiak is very relatable because she's gone to such great heights, but she hasn't really changed that much. And I find she still seems like a 19-year-old, whereas I feel like Bianca's a little more, maybe it's just because she's more dressy and she likes to, you know what I don't know how I'm saying this the
I
right
feel like
way.
Bianca's more recent, too.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Bianca has more recent fame,
Yeah.
so she's kind of, like, in the spotlight still, whereas Penny's kind of, like, she'll be in the spotlight in the Olympics next year,
Yeah,
obviously.
whenever,
Like,
yeah.
she'll be, I mean, not taking over, but she'll be kind of back in the spotlight then. But I feel like right now Bianca's more the now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I found really interesting was that last year Penny Alexiak was at the Eaton Center Christmas tree lighting. And she was kind of like helping host the show. She was the one who got to like point the wand at the tree and it lit up. She was very nervous. You could tell. She was very, very nervous. And then this year it was Bianca. Who got to do it. And I find it very interesting that they used two strong female young athletes. And of course, like there's the advantage there that they're both from
Toronto.
GTA. Yeah. So that's an obvious reason why they were there. But I think it's very interesting that they were chosen and that they're being appreciated, and that it'll be interesting to see, like, oh, who's going to be the star next year, you know?
This is a genuine question. Is it always an athlete, or is it a coincidence that they just happened to choose two athletes to do it the past 2 years?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because I'm curious if they have... Yeah, that's true.
I honestly, like,
I should know.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't even know that they had people, like, come in and do that. Like, I literally, when someone said Bianca was doing it, and when you said Penny did it last year, I didn't even know that until right now.
I feel like they don't really advertise it much, but
yeah, they definitely
I would
don't.
find it interesting if it's not. Like, I'm not sure if it's part of the CBC Olympic, because, you know, when you walk in the Eaton Center, it's a thing that says, like, sponsored by CBC Olympic Committee or whatever. So I'm wondering if they do choose athletes on purpose, or if it's just, they literally just chose Penny Alexiak and Bianca Andreescu because they've been such, like, polarizing figures in Canada. You know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see if that's why they chose them or not. But yeah, I think that's so cool. And that's a good point. They are very different people. But at the same time, like you saw in that video, they get along so well, which I think is really cool, seeing two young athletes kind of side by side with each other. And I'm sure they support each other in their
kind of the ones that, like,
competitions and stuff.
we've been looking up to
Yeah.
since we were, like,
Yeah.
16, I guess, when Penny competed, right? So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, I'm really happy with... I feel like it was a good week for sports, especially female
especially
sports.
after last week.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, last week was
kind
wild.
of a mess. Kind of a mess.
A little bit.
But, like, the back end for female sports was
Yeah.
was good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah. Well, next week might have a few guests.
we will have a few guests.
Yes.
Yeah.
Undetermined, but they will be here.
I think
Yeah.
we're going to just kind of talk about super general topics and just get everyone's input on it. It's just going to be like a fun, big conversation with
Lighthearted
8 sport media
conversation.
gals, you know?
Yeah.
We'll try and not
gonna be
talk
a-
at all the same time.
Yeah. It's
We'll see how
hard.
that goes.
It's hard, but yeah. Hopefully we'll have a great week. And yeah.
Don't forget to hit up our Instagram, and our episodes are also posted on our YouTube channel if you want to share that with your friends or re-listen to them. If you
We love
didn't
all our
catch-
fans.
Yeah, we love all our fans. It's so great. We have fans now,
We'll
guys.
be posting
All our
on
parents.
Instagram as
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
So keep up with that. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you guys, or we'll hear you guys next week. Have a great week, everyone.
Bye.